Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Rubal Walia, I'm from the Citrix Ready team. And today we are joined by AppSense, Unidesk and UniPrint as we bring you a tad unique webinar today where we're bringing on a joint customer of ours, Sunrise Health Region. And they'd be primarily talking about their experience in implementing VDI, the kinds of problems they faced, how they solved those problems. So we hope to give you tons of tips and tricks in your VDI deployments. Right, before I get into it, a few housekeeping details. We are recording this webinar, so you'll receive a copy via email after the webinar. In case you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to use the questions panel on your GoToWebinar panel. Although we have a formal Q&A session at the end of the webinar, I would be picking out questions as we go through the webinar, so please make use of this facility. In case you face any technical issues, sound, audio problems, etc., do put in those questions as well, and we'll try to resolve that and answer you on the chat itself. Great. To get started, let me just set the context a little bit here of why we are doing this and why we are doing this together. So at Citrix Ready is primarily a technology partnership program that we run at Citrix. We basically verify our partner products and solutions to ensure their compatibility and interoperability with Citrix technologies. To put it in simple words, if you as a customer are using a Citrix technology and you'd want to use add-on solutions and products on top of that, we at Citrix Ready ensure that you have a seamless experience in implementing these partner technologies. Coming to this webinar, we have three of our key partners joining us today: Unidesk, UniPrint, and AppSense. We've been working with these partners for the past few years. They've built great technologies over these years, and we've integrated these to make sure they work very well with our Citrix products. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our panel members. So we have Tom Rose from Unidesk. Hi, Tom. Thank you for joining the webinar.
My pleasure, Rubal. Thank you very much.
Great. Tom, can you talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how does Unidesk fit into the whole VDI picture?
Sure. So again, thanks for everyone for joining. Very pleased to be helping sponsor this webinar. Unidesk is best known for our application layering technology. We're known as the inventors and leaders in the space, which enables you to package every application separate from the Windows operating system as virtual disk layers, we call them. And this really allows you to have one instance of Windows to manage for your entire VDI or app or cloud environment, and then be able to deliver applications separately simply by attaching virtual disks, never having to install software ever again. So you can say goodbye to agents, you can say goodbye to all the app virtualization hassles that you've had in the past. So unique value for Sunrise Health and other healthcare customers that are using Unidesk today. Number one is the ability to virtualize truly all applications, and that includes even the complex EMR applications like Epic, and Allscripts, and Meditech, and Cerner, and McKesson, as well as important applications like Imprivata OneSign for single sign-on, and also all those printers and scanners and other complex applications that are needed for clinical use cases. And as you'll hear from Sunrise, because they're able to virtualize every application as a Unidesk layer, that leaves one instance of Windows to patch and update, one Windows 7 desktop operating system to manage for their entire environment. So you can say goodbye to gold image sprawl. And application delivery is so easy with Unidesk, and it's so much faster that app delivery times have been reduced from weeks to really just hours. And you can now shift application image management from your most advanced IT skill sets, Tier 2 and Tier 3 IT professionals, to your help desk and Tier 1 IT folks to really reduce the cost of application management. And also, Unidesk's ability to deliver applications as part of a full-blown standard image by combining all of our application layers and OS layer before the machine even boots means all applications are ready to go the second any physician logs in. So login times are greatly reduced. And then the last thing I'll mention is we've also just released some Unidesk unique innovations that resulted in Unidesk winning the Best of Citrix Synergy Award for New Technology. And first of that was, as I mentioned, the ability to create these layered images consisting of windows and applications all before a machine boots, and then pushing those complete images through Citrix PVS or machine creation services to leverage the technology you already have from Citrix, and really taking advantage of those great image delivery tools and allowing you to manage the image content then through Unidesk. And then also we've added the ability now to elastic, we call it elastic layering, which is the ability to hot add applications when a user logs in to either Zen Desktop VDI or even XenApp, published desktops. So for the first time, different XenApp users can have different applications. So now, you know, healthcare customers like Sunrise Health and others have the choice now of whether to use full VDI or use XenApp to deliver different applications to users as they log in. And then the last thing we were recognized for with that award was the ability to package applications once and deliver them to any hypervisor or cloud. So because of Unidesk's partnership with Microsoft, we're the only Azure certified solution that allows you to package an application once for use on premise, but also then deliver that application into the Azure cloud. So that's the overview on Unidesk.
Great, great, fantastic. Thanks, Tom. And I agree, you know, I think your technology greatly leverages the Citrix-based infrastructure for our customers, and especially for our healthcare facilitators. It's a great product to use.
Great,
Thanks, Tom. Moving on, I have next Simon Cleffin from AppSense. Simon, could you talk a little bit about yourself, what do you do, and how does AppSense fits into the VDI picture?
Thank you, Rubel. Yes, delighted to be here and very pleased to be part of this joint session with Citrix Ready. We've been a Citrix Ready right since the program was founded, and love to talk about customers. I've known Sheranga for several years, and this is a great success story, so I hope everyone's really going to enjoy this session today. Basically, building on what Tom said, AppSense, you know, as part of Citrix Ready, basically seeks to augment, tune, and otherwise accelerate the end user experience. So you'd use Unidesk to help get the applications delivered to the end users, and then AppSense is obsessive, or I talk about a maniacal focus on the end user experience. Our goal is to tune what happens at that end user clinician's performance. In the process of doing that, we also do a lot of work in migrations and helping people move from physical to virtual and move from one operating system to the next version. So you'll hear us talk a little bit about some of those migrations. We also do a lot of work in the area of security and making sure the right access to the right applications at the right time in the right location, detecting which network you're on, whether you're in Starbucks, whether you're at home, or whether you're on the corporate WAN or LAN. You know, you have the right permissions at that time, and it all happens seamlessly. And then lastly, a lot of tuning in terms of performance to make sure that we can do what we need to say. Just got a couple of quotes from you from some of the institutions that we've been working with. You know, people need to be worrying about migrations. Forrester talking about 50% of enterprises have now started on their Windows 10 deployments. So if you haven't started, now would be a good time to start looking. Endpoints are under assault. Everybody has heard about the ransomware attacks. 81% of CIOs ranked endpoint security as their top spending priority. That was a Piper Jaffray report. And lastly, 75% of IT managers cited user acceptance testing as a major roadblock during their deployment of new technologies and new applications. AppSense is in the business of making those happen smoothly, and I think you'll be interested to hear what Sheranga has to say on this. Thank you, Rubel. Back to you.
Great, thanks. Thanks a lot, Simon. I think I reciprocate your feeling. AppSense has been a Citrix Ready partner for quite a few years, and I think it's a win-win situation for Citrix as well as AppSense, and customers can gain a lot by this partnership as well. So thanks, Simon. Next off, we have David Funk from UniPrint. UniPrint, again, as AppSense, has been a Citrix Ready partner for quite a few years. David, you want to introduce yourself, what you do, and talk a little bit about UniPrint?
Sure. So thank you, Rubel. Once again, thank you everyone to joining this webinar. And like AppSense and Unidesk, we've been working with Sheranga at Sunrise for a while now. So what do? UniPrint really does one thing very well. What we do really is we solve all printing issues. And if you look at us, we have one universal printer driver, which is a PDF based. And if you look at the right-hand side of the platform, basically we started with Citrix a long time ago, solving printing issues. And then over the years, we've built 4 different columns. One is the secure pool printing with the VPQ or virtual print queue, or some people call it follow me printing. And then the other column, the blue one, is what we do talk about, the mobile suite of solutions, whereby, you know, how do you make sure that the mobile workers with today carrying iOS device or Android device, to make sure that they print to the right printer, most importantly, security. And then the third column is what we have announced only about 6 months ago, an entire healthcare print suite that includes redundancy, full redundancy for printing infrastructure, making sure that your printing environment is up 7/24. The other one is our label printing module that makes sure that the labels are printing correctly, and also follow me printing. And the last but not least is our latest entry in terms of solution-based, which eliminates print servers. All these really, when you put it together, is about reducing help desk costs and reducing cost of print by up to 20 to 40%, and ensuring, I mean, in healthcare, and I'm sure Sheranga will touch base on that, it's about patient privacy, confidentiality, and the other big benefit is in healthcare, how do you make sure that the workflow is not interrupted or disrupted by not being able to print? Anyway, that's all about UniPrint. We only do one thing very well. Thank you, Rubel.
Thank you, David. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great. I think let's dive straight into it. Our audience would be waiting to hear from a customer. So give you a little background about Sunrise Health Region. It's a Saskatchewan. It's based in Saskatchewan region in Canada. They have over 16 facilities and 5,000 plus active users, and they have 3,000 plus staff members. So today we'll be hearing from Sheranga Jayasinghe. He's the Director of IT at Sunrise Health Region, about how they've implemented VDI in their facilities and what tips and tricks they have for you. So thanks, Sheranga, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on our webinar.
Thanks, Rubel. Hello, everybody. My name is Sheranga Jayasinghe, and I'm the Director of IT for Sunrise Health Region. The first slide is about us, and Rubel kind of alluded to some of the contents on the slide. So, you know, apart from having 3,000 staff, full-time staff members, we actually support about 5,000 because we have a lot of transient staff members, staff that actually come and go. So moving on, this is kind of our pre and post setup. Because the province of Saskatchewan is about 1 million in population, it was decided early on that instead of each of the health regions hosting its own EMR, that it would be beneficial for everybody to actually centrally host it. So we have a central entity that's actually hosting all of our clinical applications, and then each region, depending on the number of users that they supported, were given the opportunity to have their own Citrix farm or have the endpoint directly access the EMR through the published app, off of the central Citrix farm. Based on our user base and the work that was involved to directly have application access, it was decided at Sunrise that we would have our own Citrix farm. This particular setup, the pre-setup, I would say, is something that we had about 5 to 6 years ago. So at that time, we were still running a PS presentation server for farm. And then we were having our users access that farm, and then they were launching a published app off of that farm and connecting to the provincial Citrix farm. So with the transition to the virtual desktop, after the successful journey of going from that to a virtual environment, we have now completely eliminated that farm and then transitioned all our users to a virtual desktop environment. So this is some of the clinical applications and other management applications we have in our environment. The 2 or 3 key applications are the EMRs. So we have 2 types of EMRs in our environment, one being what's being used in the acute setting, which is the Allscripts SCM, and then we also have another which is called a Curo, which is used in a primary healthcare or external clinics. And of course, for diagnostic imaging, we have the Philips and RIS and PAC solution. So initially, when we deployed the solution that we had off of the PS4 farm, basically we had tested it ourselves. We did the run through. We confirmed the users can access the application. So from our point of view, we felt that we had delivered what was asked from us. We assumed that the endpoints were sufficient. They were deployed in the right locations. Based on some of the conversations with our end users, they were almost every one of them were either a PC or a thin client. We had tested it. We logged in once. We timed access. For us it was a reasonable time to actually access the application. We didn't see any privacy breaches, and we assume that the end users were happy. So unfortunately for us, after the implementation, we started to get some complaints. We heard continuously that our end users were not happy. There was a lot of frustration building on the floors. From our information management, which actually manages our clinical applications, they were coming back saying, hey, you have all this IT gear out there, but we have very little clinical uptake. And then from a privacy team, we kept hearing saying, hey, by the way, we are having so many privacy breaches. We keep getting continuous complaints about documents printing all over the place. Some documents going missing, some documents sitting on printers for days in, days out, without nobody collecting, etc. So, we started to wonder what's going on. Why are we getting all these complaints? Because in our mind, we had done our due diligence in deploying the solution that was asked for. So we kind of set about to understanding the why. And the first thing we did was to say, before we may have gone about this in the wrong way. Maybe we need to take a step back here and understand what's actually happening on the flow. What's that actual end user experience? So let's not think about technology. Let's not talk about technology. Let's not even consider technology at this point in time. Let's just understand the process. And so we kind of, in order to do that, we also made a change in what we wanted to do, or how we wanted to go about understanding that. And so we said, who's our primary customer? It's the patient. And what can we do to improve that patient experience, make it pleasant? We already know that people don't walk into the hospital just because they're happy. They walk into the hospital because they need care. So they're already down. Should we also be making it worse for them? So let's maybe follow a patient and understand what experience they are having in terms of going through the care delivery process. So we picked an area which was from the time a patient was admitted to the time they were discharged from our emergency room. So whether they were discharged so that they could go home, or whether they were discharged so that they could get transferred to an acute care setting, whatever that may be. So we kind of, we didn't really want to follow every patient. We just wanted to narrow it down to a certain area and then try and understand that particular flow itself. We also wanted to be open to understanding the actual process. It wasn't something where we wanted to approach it with a closed mind saying, we have a technology, let's just start blaming the end users for not using it. We wanted to understand what was going on, understand what our mistakes were, because our ultimate goal was to improve that patient experience. So we actually did this for a period of 2 weeks. We followed every patient that came through our admitting area that got registered to be seen in ER. For 2 whole weeks, it was all about following the patient and making notes. It was not about coming up with recommendations. It was not about coming up with solutions. It was mainly following the patient, understanding what that experience was. So, like I say in my heading, so the fall from cloud 9 was when we actually came back after that 2-week period and then sat down and started comparing notes, trying to understand and trying to get to the root cause. On average, we noted that there were about 90 minutes of wait, whether that was waiting for a lab result to come back or whether that was, to do with something else. A patient would have about 90 minutes of wait within that process. And the eye-open for us was out of that, 65% of that was due to IT challenges, varying from waiting to be logged in, looking for their username, passwords, sometimes incorrect username and password being used, printing and then trying to track down where that job went. So various factors, technological factors contributed to these waits. And it was an eye-opener. It was pretty much almost a smack in the back for us saying, hey, you guys suck really in what you really deliver in this environment, because you're really not helping us provide the better care. Now are you really making our experience from a patient point of view pleasant when we actually come to the hospital, because the technology you have is really causing further delays. So the bottom line was we are really not helping, but we are really impacting the patient care. So and then this resulted in almost a validation of those complaints. Of course, the care providers or the clinicians, they didn't have a choice but to come up with workarounds on how to address these issues, because their sole role, which is rightly so, was to care for the patient. And so instead of waiting on IT, they had to come up with their own ways. So, the fact that they were sharing their credentials, the fact that somebody would open their session and leave it open and everybody would just use that session. Almost everything that they were doing that was causing a concern to either privacy or information management or somebody else was justified based on the facts that we had, discovered. So for us, it was really a good thing to approach it and understand the flow versus trying to understand what the technology was. So we decided, it was time to go back to the drawing board, because of course we knew we were failing. Our first goal was, let's not make IT a hindrance. Let's try and eliminate the waits. Let's try and do a better job at it. Once again, it was not about the technology. Let's not talk about vendors. Let's not talk about products. Let's just try to understand the components or the technological components or pieces that actually plays a role in this patient care experience. So we kind of broke it down into 5 main areas. Hardware, your endpoint, the access itself, your credentials. How do you access a desktop? Then the whole desktop itself. What are your preferences? Do you want a fully functional desktop, or do you want a published desktop? What would that be? And again, the underlying concept here was everything that we looked at had to in some way or form reduce that weight. So if it was going to be a desktop, we had to come up with a non-PC solution, because at the end of the day, we know every time you boot a PC, depending on the age of the PC, what's loaded on that PC, it can be a 2-minute to a 10-minute wait. From an end-user experience, little things like, where are my shortcuts, where are my custom settings, things that can potentially lead into extra time being taken to access an application, because if the shortcuts on a Windows XP was on the left side, now they go to a published desktop, and now the shortcuts are on the right side. Somebody still continue to look for that. That's contributing to that weight. And then of course printing. Let's try and eliminate, having individuals run around trying to grab their jobs. Let's make it seamless to them. When they print, it's always going to print where they need it to be. instead of them having to play that guessing game, okay, am I good to print or should I change my default printer, etc. So the ultimate goal was three main things. Basically, come up with a solution that will give our clinicians access to the information they need anywhere, anytime, on any device. Provide that access in less than 15 seconds. And in doing so, make technology invisible. So we then did that whole deep dive. Let's understand what really goes into it. Again, at this point, even at this point, we were really not still talking about what the technology was. We are not talking about products. We are not talking about the software or anything like that. We were just trying to break down and understand the process. So from a hardware point of view, like I said before, let's come up with something that doesn't have that boot time. What can we really have as an endpoint that gives them that 2-second boot versus a 2-minute or a 15-minute boot. From an access point of view, what can we do? Because the traditional AD access or Active Directory authentication, long username, long password, and we have multiple applications, and each application has a different authentication process. So can we have it in such a way that either the credentials are automatically submitted for each of the applications? What about having it in such a way that instead of having a username password, what about having a PIN so that it's a 4-digit PIN, it's similar to your banking card. So it's easy to remember. It's not something that you easily forget. So and then also the fact of having that same experience regardless of the device. From a desktop, I alluded to this before, a fully functional desktop. And again, the same concept, continuous access to the desktop regardless of the location or the device that you are connecting from. From an end-user experience, consistency. Consistency was key. Every second you spent looking for the shortcut, trying to change the custom settings was taking away from patient care. And we could not let that happen. So we wanted to make sure that regardless of where you connect from, regardless of the desktop you connect to, your experience was going to be the same. You'd be guaranteed a consistent desktop regardless of, independent of the device you're connecting to. And also, the ability for them to be more flexible. I need application X. So can I download and install it versus, I now need to call IT. IT needs another week to get it done. So sorry, maybe you can come back next week and we can look at that particular blood report of yours. We wanted to eliminate all of that. So delegated rights. We couldn't also compromise the security of the network. We had to strike that balance. And then, of course, from printing, we set out to have 3 main criteria that we wanted to address. The number one was location-based printing, which was I always have the ability of printing to the closest printer. I don't have to go into my printer settings, add the printer, change settings, change the default printer, etc. When I print, it should always pick and then print to the closest printer. What about taking it one step further, and like your desktop where you can access it from any device and your experience is the same, can you also take your print job? Can you make it follow me as well? And from an IT point of view, we also realized the benefits of having the right print at the right location. Instead of always standardizing on 2 printers, and if it's an area that needs only 600 print jobs, but because you're on one particular model because you don't want to deal with all the print drivers, now you're spending extra dollars on just print, and it's actually underperforming in a way because it can do more. So we knew going forward we had to be more efficient in terms of our printer management and printer deployment. We wanted to make it so that the right device is at the right place as well. So of course for that, the biggest barrier was, by the way, then your print server is going to have 300 print drivers. But can we come up with a solution that only requires 1 print driver? So those are the criteria around printing. So based on all of this, we also had one more key thing that we wanted to look at. Who are we going to pick as our partners? Because that was going to be key for us. This was 5 years ago, and we were walking into uncharted territory. Some of the the concepts you hear today, or some of the technologies that you have today, from PVS to MCS to hyperconvergence, all of that was sometimes were things that people just were starting to talk about, or things that were developed in labs. There was nothing that we could just Google or go to a Gartner or somewhere and download and say, hey, this is the exact blueprint we want, let's follow it. So with that in mind, we wanted to make sure that the vendors we pick or the products we pick would really fit in with what we wanted to do. The number one thing was whoever we picked, we wanted to make sure they believed in our end goal, which was improving the patient care experience. It was not about improving our bottom line. It was not about making sure that Sunrise was the best organization, the organization to have the best technology. It was all about improving that patient experience, and that was number one. So we wanted to make sure that whoever vendor we picked actually believed in that. And we also wanted to have vendors who are willing to change their roadmaps, who are willing to work with us, understand our needs, listen to us, come back with alternate solutions, not just be focused on their product and walk away, who are willing to work with other products, even if there were things that may have overlap with the two products, be open to saying, hey, that product is better than what we have to offer, let's work together. And also, one of the things Tom alluded to when he was talking about his Unidesk product, which is something that we wanted across the board for us, was any product that we picked, we wanted to make sure that it could be handled, managed, and operated at the help desk. And that was key as well, because again, going back to our main principle, eliminate the patient wait. So again, if somebody has to call into the help desk and now that person has to go and talk to the server team, the application team, whatever that may be, that's again a wait. Somebody on the other end has a patient in front of them and now they're waiting. So if everything can be handled at the help desk, more of a one-stop shop kind of a thing, that would also contribute towards eliminating those waits. So we came up with, what you see in this slide as some of the criteria that we wanted to have in our partners that we picked on our journey. So the next slide is kind of so at the end of the day, the goal was to come up with a follow me experience. So regardless of what they use, the goal was to say, hey, it has to be a follow me experience. Whatever you carry, it's like your wallet, you carry it with you. It's like your paper chart, you carry it with you. So how can we take that and make it electronic so that you're not going back and forth, trying to get the information you need. So the first crack at it is, and the vendors based on the criteria that we picked is what you see actually on the right-hand side. And I'll be going, into more details about each of the vendors and, what they brought to the table later on in the presentation. One of the key things that really worked well for us was, like I said before, this was not something that we could download a document and then prove to our executives. So the first challenge we had was, how do we really make it work? And the key to that was vendors agreeing to do POCs with us, because we didn't have the funding. And one of the things that the vendors had to understand was, this is not something that actually going to work out. We didn't know that. It was a hit and miss. It may work out, it may not. So sometimes they had to be ready to walk away empty-handed, without having a business with us or having a sale. And again, the vendors you see on this deck were pretty much open to that. They were more than happy to step up to the plate, come, work with us and be part of this journey. So after the first crack, basically, we went back and we spoke to our users. One of the key things we did when we actually went ahead and did the implementation for the first go around was set the expectations to our end users, saying, hey guys, this is of the concept. This is where we want to take you. By no means is what you're having today is the final product. But unfortunately, we don't have the dollars or the resources to get you to the final product. So we are presenting you with a concept. So bear with us, be patient with us, and that really helped, because when I say the wait times are still a concern, and it was more to do with not not the fact that we were having issues, but it was more to do with them getting familiar with the concepts of follow me desktop, follow me printing, secure printing, connection, disconnection, etc. So their frustrations were not negative frustrations. They were more positive frustrations. They were more contributing towards helping us improve on the product. So the end result was, at the end of the day, we were able to address almost all of the goals that we set out to address, and prove to our senior management that the follow me concept really works. And which helped, because then we had our business case that we were able to put our finger on and say, hey, this is what's going to work because it's a proven solution, because our end users have endorsed it. So today, we went through the whole process. We got the approvals, we got the funding, and so a snapshot of where we are today is basically we have implemented all the products that you see on the right hand side, and our technology related weights are down to less than 1%. It's not completely eliminated. It's something that we are striving to do, but we are not there yet. We have absolutely zero printing related privacy breaches. We started in our emergency area, but now we have expanded it right throughout the organization to all of the 16 facilities we have. Every user that signs up to work at Sunrise now by default gets a virtual desktop, either in the flavor of a shared desktop or a persistent desktop, depending on the type of role they perform. From a imaging point of view, we have been lucky and we are fortunate that we picked Unidesk, because even with 3,000 users and the number of VDIs we have, we are still on one gold image, which is huge for us, because we are not really patching multiple images, and we have about 152 total applications that are that's actually virtualized and in production today. So from a vendor breakdown point of view, again, keeping in mind the principal concept of eliminating weights, we decided on the Dell-wise zero clients. Again, at that time, we had different technologies. We like the improviser single sign-on wasn't baked into the actual chipset itself. The smart cards that we were using, the Gemalto.net smart card that we picked was not really compatible with most of the hardware that was out there. So Dell came to the table and said, hey, we write the code for you. We'll work with you on it. Same with Access itself. Citrix stepped up, because at that time, when we looked at what kind of access mechanism we would use, the first thing was to say, hey, what about a tap-in, tap-out solution? And keep in mind, this was 5 years ago. Technology has changed so much since then. The first concern, and it pretty much got stopped, was privacy, saying, no, you can't use it, because if you forget to tap out, that session is going to be open, which is a security breach. So then we had to find a way which would force the end user to actually disconnect from that session. And the only way we could do that was to come up with something similar to your bank card, where when you go to your ATM and when you withdraw money, an alarm goes off if you don't pull your card out, and which by pulling your card out, you pretty much disconnect or close your session. So we had to come up with a similar scenario for our healthcare setting, and Gemalto.net smart card was what we picked, and Citrix was the only vendor who was willing to support us, even though they didn't have anything in their product portfolio at that point. They once again came to the table and said, hey, yeah, we'll work with you. So there was quite a few back and forth discussions. The engineers from top to bottom were involved. They came on site. They were like us. They wanted to work with us. They wanted to understand our pressures, so they were on site. Same goes for the Unidesk, AppSense, and UniPrint. When we first approached them and talked about the concept that we were trying to explore, the first thing was, when do we start? It was not something about, well, it's not something that I'm really open for. It's not something that's really on our roadmap. It was never even brought up. The first thing was, when do you guys want us on site, and then how can we work? And the other thing here was, the key was, not a single vendor was opposed to working with another vendor, even though there were certain components that some other vendor had, or something that may have overlapped what they were already marketing. we never had the question about why don't you use this. It was all about you guys have picked the right product. Let's work with these guys. And it was amazing to see companies even behind the um, you know behind the background, like working without even us knowing. Sometimes we would pick up the phone and go, hey, where are we with this? And they would be like, oh, but don't worry about it. We have a team from both companies working together on it. We didn't want to get you involved because we know, you have so many other things working on that you need to work on. So don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. And it was amazing. It was one of the best experiences to work with, Unidesk, AppSense, UniPrint, and Citrix. And because I don't think we would have had the success we had today without that kind of commitment from these companies. So so some of the benefits, talk about some of the benefits from for each of the areas. So from an IT point of view, like I said before, all 99% of the issues are now handled at the help desk. We very rarely get a call escalated to either the application or the server team. Sometimes it does, but then it's definitely something that cannot be fixed and requires more time to investigate. From an application creation point of view, we went from weeks to days. New desktops are now being delivered in less than 30 minutes. Of course, troubleshooting of desktop is 99% of the time it's just a restart of a desktop or rollback of a desktop. Once again, it's less than 30 minutes in total. And of course, we don't, based on the number of staff we support, I technically can't afford to have dedicated staff. So the solutions we have doesn't require me to have dedicated staff, which is really a benefit because we can actually focus on other projects at the same time as well. From a financial point of view, the biggest benefit I would say is the fact that we have achieved that intangible gains, which is productivity for our end users. They are not waiting for weeks for their computers. They get their computers or applications in less than 30 minutes, and they can continue on. When they call to the help desk, everything is handled at the help desk, and they are not waiting, and so they can continue on with their role. Of course, the elimination of PCs and going to voice has given us it's a less energy footprint, reduction of cost, and of course, because we have been fortunate enough to have just one gold image, it has also contributed to us needing less storage in our VDI journey. From a care provider's point of view, they get access to their desktop in 15 seconds. And I just need to clarify this here a bit. When I say access, what I mean is a desktop that's already open, they will get connected to that desktop. If they're logging in for the first time, that varies from a minute to 2 minutes. But then because of how the desktop is structured for them, they only need to do it at the beginning of their shift. So shifts vary from 3 12-hour shifts to the 8 to 5 Monday to Friday. So what we have instructed our users is just log into your desktop at the beginning of your shift, and for the rest of your shift, whether that's 3 days, 5 days, whatever that may be, just use your card to connect and disconnect. So everything is on their card more or less. So when they put their card in, they connect to the disconnected session. When they pull their card out, that session disconnects, but remains active in the background with all the applications open. We have also been able to eliminate all the timeouts for each of the applications, especially because when they pull their card out, the session is kind of technically locked. So privacy was more than willing to sign off on saying eliminate all the timeouts. You don't need that anymore. The consistent user experience, people are not looking for shortcuts anymore. They're really spending time caring for the patient. They're really not. Technology has become seamless to them. They just know that it works, and it's amazing because in the past, when a computer goes down or when an application goes down, you would never not even hear about it until one of us discovers it. And now when the VDI goes down, you hear about it the next second because they're so involved in it. They're reliant upon it, which is great for us because we know the solution is working. And for the BYOX experience, it's great for us because we don't really have an MDM solution. Instead, what we have done is we have just ask them to just download the Citrix receiver and connect, and that's pretty much all they do is on any device, they just download the Citrix receiver, connect to their VDI, and then away they go. So that way we didn't. That has also eliminated the need for one more application to manage, if you want to call it. And the most important benefactor of all of this is the patient. There's increased patient safety because the documents are not being printed all over the place. Timely access to the clinical information, electronic information is more up to date than the paper chart. So that information is available readily when they're caring for the patient. We are not impacting their delivery of care. We are actually doing what technology is supposed to do, is to improve that patient experience. So it has greatly benefited the patient as well with the VDI solution that we have. So some of the overall benefits that we have experienced through this solution. In the past, we know after those 2 weeks, one thing that we came across that really stood out was the fact that every time, for every shift, the whole login logout thing took about 2 hours in total. So technically that was 2 hours of patient care taken away by the fact that I had to log in and log back, log in, log out, and walk over to the next location, log back in, open my applications, etc., etc. So in a 12-hour shift, that was only 10 hours for care providers. So of course they were resorting to alternate ways of sharing credentials using an open session, etc. And that's down to 120 seconds now because they are not logging in or logging out. They're just connecting, disconnecting, and that benchmark is less than 15 seconds. We have seen a tremendous increase in the use of clinical applications. Now it's through the roof right now. Everybody who's working in wants access to use the clinical applications because they know how easy it is to get access and how easy it is to use. The most important thing, technology is now an enabler. It's a supporting tool. It's invisible to the end users. They don't see it. They just see it as a tool that they can use to access the information. We have also had a 100% increase in VDI deployment. It's amazing. We deploy close to 200 to 300 computers almost every 2 to 3 months now because there has been such a tremendous buy-in for the concept of follow me desktops along with everything associated with it. And we pretty much can't keep it's really hard for us to keep control of all the deployments that are happening because there are so many requests that are coming our way on a day in, day out basis. So last but not least, factors that really contributed to the success that we have today. The first and foremost thing that we practice to this date is understanding our client. Every project that we do now starts with understanding what they need, living in their world, following them for a few days, understanding what they want, even before we start talking about what the technology that should help them. That goes leads into the proper planning, the documenting, and the whole notion of selecting the right vendor, because then that kind of follows into my next thing about the ability to use different products instead of trying to fit everything into one product. Sometimes the whole one size fits all is good, and because that's more or less because you don't have those finger pointing and it's one product, it's easy to learn. But if you pick the right vendors, like the AppSense, the Unidesk, UniPrint, and the Citrix of the world, you're never going to have that issue. And on the plus side, you're also going to have the best of breed helping you on your journey. And the most important thing is, you don't have to always come up with the best solution. You just need to set the expectations and then work with those expectations. And as long as you have set the expectations, it's okay for you to fail, because nobody expects you to get it right the first time. Some may, some don't, but it all depends on the expectations that you set. That concludes my presentation, Rubel. So I'll hand it back to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sheranga. I think some of these numbers have blown me away as well. I was intrigued looking at the figures that you just showed. So guys, the question and answer session is now open. If you have any questions, please do put it in the questions panel. So I have a few questions coming in, Sheranga. You spoke about how much saving you've done, how you've gained extra time for your clinicians, and how this whole implementation has helped your clients. There's a question about how many FTEs did you have to add specifically to help manage these technologies? So it's a question from somebody who says, we have a small team and we are also looking to implement a similar stack, but they wanted to know the human resource workload increase.
So when we set about doing this deployment, we really didn't have any additions to our FTE load. But after the successes that we have had to add more individuals, not just to manage it, but to keep up with the requests that we are getting, because there's, like I said before, we are going through about 200, 300 computers every month. This is net new. This is not just replacing what we have out there. This is net new. And it's amazing to see how many requests or how many things that are out there that people think that can be now handled through an electronic method. And of course, the foundation for that is to have a virtual desktop. So in that regard, when we implemented this, we didn't really have any net new additions to our environment. It was basically based on the existing staffing components we had. But since then, since the successes that we have had more individuals added to our team just to keep up with the demand of deploying this.
Great, awesome. Another question that has just come in is, what is the purpose of the persistent desktops?
So the concept of persistent desktop is probably going to change in the near future for us, and that's mainly because of some of the features that Unidesk has brought to the table with their version 4, and I'm sure Tom can talk more about it if you reach out to Unidesk about this, is the on-demand application loading. Sometimes you have these one-off applications that you may not have sufficient licensing for, or you may only have 5 or 10 users use it. So instead of deploying it to 300 users, you may either consider having a small pool, or you may just have one persistent desktop for that individual. So that's more or less the reasoning behind us going with the persistent desktop. It was more to do with, okay, if this is a one-off application and we only have one license for it, we may just do it. We may just give out only one persistent desktop for it. But with Unidesk version 4, which we are yet to be on, basically that kind of is no longer a barrier, because you can load the application on demand, so that users can still be in a shared pool and just have access to that application when they log in.
Yeah, I believe Unidesk can greatly solve that problem. Thanks for that, Sheranga. There's another question. Somebody wants to know, what was the EPR system in use? I'm assuming they wanted to write EMR system.
Yeah, so that's all scripts, Sunrise Clinical Manager.
All scripts, great. There's one question specific to UniPrint. I think, Sheranga, you can give your opinion, and David, if you have anything to add. How easy or difficult was it implementing the UniPrint technologies onto your infrastructure?
Almost every technology that I spoke about, we didn't spend more than 2 to 3 days implementing the entire solution. We actually, from POC to production, was less than a week technically, because some of the solutions that we had to implement, we had to get it out and tested to prove the concept worked. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty much like, some of the products were over the phone. Hey, here you go, guys, here you install. And then, the next day I would, get my text would be on my, doorstep saying, hey, it's done, let's move on. So it's pretty straightforward. It's less than a week, I would say.
Great. David, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think the customer said it all.
Great, awesome. Another question just coming in. What's the general users per VM host ratio for a consistent user experience?
So we actually have HP, I think it's BL 460s or 480s. I'm not 100% sure of exactly what the model is, but I think it's rated for, it's we started on Gen 6s and now we have Gen 9s. On Gen 6s, it was about 65 per host. and I think the Gen 9s can do about 120 per host.
Great, great. Another question that has just come in: what type of storage are you running on your VDI desktop?
So we are on the front end, it's all Dell Wyse 0 clients. On the back end, it's an HP 3PAR with a C7000 blade enclosure.
Okay, great, great. I think we have a lot of questions coming. I'll take one last question. How did you handle user expectations when users were used to 0 login times versus a login time which is greater than 0?
It was a balance. The conversation was not just IT working in and saying, hey, this is what it is. It was also from privacy and information management as a team approaching the end users and explaining to them the challenges of having it that way versus the safety and the comfort level that would, that you would have in terms of going to your own login. So once you explain it to them, saying, hey, this is what it is, guys, I understand the reasoning behind this, but yes, now we have a 15-second connection time for this, but this is the reason. They were more than happy because at the end of the day, they care for their patient and their patient security.
Absolutely, I agree. I think end of the day, we're doing it all for the patients, and if it serves the purpose for them, I think we've been successful at it. Great, great, Sheranga. Thanks, thanks a lot for taking the time out. It was a pleasure having you on the webinar. Guys, I know a few more questions are coming in. I think we'd try to answer that over emails after the webinar. So before we end, I'd like to just hand it over to our sponsors for any last words. Tom, anything from you?
I'll just make 2 quick points. One is that AppSense and UniPrint and Unidesk are a proven combination, not only at Sunrise but other customers as well. And I think Sheranga explained that pretty well. We're delighted as Citrix Ready partners to all work together to make sure our customers are successful. And I think that came through pretty clear. And then the other thing I'll just point out is that if you're looking to expand an existing Citrix and app environment, certainly look at Unidesk and our elastic layering technology, which as Sheranga said, can really make both published desktops as well as non-persistent VDI almost act persistent to provide one-off and custom applications and really be expanded to all use cases. Or whether you're looking just to solve the application lifecycle management challenge in Zen Desktop VDI, again, as Sheranga and Sunrise have proven, we're the best solution for that. So again, thanks Sheranga for a great webinar.
Great, awesome. Thanks, Tom. Anything from you, Simon?
No, pretty much reiterate everything that Tom said. Thank you, Sheranga. Great use case. Love to hear these case studies. There's a whole bunch more case studies on the AppSense website. So if this is of interest and you want to hear about other customers using AppSense and Unidesk and UniPrint, don't hesitate to go to our website, appsense.com/healthcare. And I will be following up with a gift to everybody, a pizza coupon. And thanks for attending. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, Sheranga. Appreciate it. Back to you, Rubal.
Great. Thanks, Simon. David, so you have the last word.
Sure, no problem. Hey, I just want to echo everybody. Seeing is believing. You can all try our software. I'm sure everybody is more than prepared to answer any questions and why we offer solutions, and download our software. And seeing is believing. Just www.uniprint.net. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone, for joining. It was a pleasure having all of you on the webinar. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.